Board gaming. Today I wanted to show you guys a couple of ways to store these big box Dungeons and Dragons games. Kind of a traditional way on Wrath of a Chardalon, and then for Castle Ravenloft, a quick and dirty, no-cost way to really pack all the components in here. First, I'll show you a more standard way. I bought Wrath of a Chardalon used, and it was all just kind of strewn around in here. So I did the pretty simple thing of just rubber banding most of the cards and tiles and stacks of things and bagging up the miniatures and token type components. That's pretty typical. Rule books on top, larger tiles on these stacks over here. You notice I've used one of the card slots here to store a bag of tokens, because it actually works out better that way. These guys go below the card slots. Now below the miniatures, I've stored the cards because they just seem to fit better down there, and actually they don't need a rubber band when they're kind of packed in with the miniatures, but you could just as easily have them here with a rubber band. If you don't rubber band them in these card slots, they do fall out and scatter. Notice the depth here between the top of this plastic insert and where the lid of the box is going to go provides a lot of room for these guys to pop out and slide around. Miniatures in bags, tokens, tiles, board tiles, and characters, board tiles and characters. Now these have recesses for more components in the bottom, so I've used that to store the HP related bag. But this is kind of a traditional way you can store your stuff. No surprises here. You can do this with the set you already have, and most likely you already are, if you don't want your stuff scattered everywhere. Because again, this insert sits so far below the lid of the box, most likely to provide room for, you know, all the miniatures, stuff like this guy, a Chardalon, that without special precautions, these cards are going to go everywhere. And that's how the game was when I bought it. So let me show you a way that if you buy this game new, that you can store it in a way that I think is pretty handy without using any outside things or anything of cost. Also, these box bands really help. So, here's Castle Ravenloft. And you'll notice right away that it's solid throughout. So the components are coming right up to the top of this lid, and I'll show you how that's done. So rule book's on top, but as you remove that, you see one of the cardboard punch outs on top here, actually holding everything in place. And you know, some cards can kind of slide around a little bit, but for the most part, putting the rule books on top of that really keeps everything in place. And you know, this game sees storage on its side sometimes, movement, and it really stays intact from that. Now you notice this is raised up though. closer to the top, and that's the only way to make that work, to hold the components in place. And normally this is trash. Though on a side note here, I have heard that people are making some interesting art for game rooms and board game shops out of these punch outs by overlapping them and gluing them together in interesting ways. So similar setup here with the long tiles on top of these tiles, but because of the plastic insert being raised up, there's no need to rubber band these guys anymore. And I'll show you how that is. Cards, they don't need rubber banded either, because they're sitting against the lid of that box. Miniatures all fit in there in bags. Almost all the tokens in the bottom of this large pit in bags. Oh, this guy's come open here. These little guys kept the skeletons from getting droopy. I appreciate that. So if you raise this up, you can see that it's just the rest of the cardboard sheets that were punched out, keeping only enough to raise this up to the right height to get the effect you want. Now this makes the box a lot heavier, but that's not really a problem. So there's no secret to how these are stacked. They just have an edge to hold up all the parts of this plastic tray, and that's all that matters. So it's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of these cardboard sheets with the 13th going on top. I have no idea how many this game originally came with, you know, if that's all of them or not, and I can only speak for Castle Ravenloft, but I'd like to think that this method would work for the others. And again, you don't need any pieces that didn't come in the box. So this is kind of the, you know, economic way to do this. And I always like to repackage my games in a way that they can be stored and transported without causing any shifting of the contents that require extra time and hassle during setup. You know, and it's always going to be a pretty tight fit in these boxes, but you can kind of finagle things until they settle. And you see, I chose this piece in particular because it does have kind of smaller punch-out holes to hold this stuff in place. Oops, forgot these guys. Books. Now usually stack this box so the cards are on the bottom and these tile slots are on the right, miniatures at the top. That also helps prevent the cards and stuff from falling out of place, so you can actually stack it like this. Oh, I forgot one of the bags there. We'll see. You know, this might not be perfect, but let's see. Not bad. So that's just a quick tip I wanted to share for all you people who really kind of obsess about the storage and organization of your games inside the box. I will talk to you next time.